Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Bill Howe Family of Companies, providing San Diego with plumbing, heating and air, restoration, flood and remodeling services for over 40 years. Call 1-800-BILL-HOWE or visit billhowe.com. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marcos Shiley, and by the following. And by viewers like you. Thank you.
Tonight, preparations are underway for another unprecedented moment in American history. Thank you for joining us. I'm Maya Trabulsi. Tomorrow, former President Donald Trump will be arraigned on charges that he tried to overturn the 2020 presidential election. He's expected to travel to Washington, D.C. to answer those charges in person. Laura Aguirre has the latest.
The attack on our nation's capital on January 6th, 2021 was an unprecedented assault on the seat of American democracy.
In this 45-page indictment, the former president faces 4 counts of conspiracies related to obstructing the peaceful transfer of power. On Wednesday, both former Vice President Mike Pence and his once chief of staff pointed to Mr. Trump's failed attempts to prove election fraud.
What the president maintained that day, and frankly has said over and over again over the last 2.5 years, is completely false.
If he has the evidence, then all these conspiracy charges would go away. But that's not the case that you hear his defense team presenting.
Our defense is going to be focusing on the fact that what we have now is an administration that has criminalized the free speech and advocacy of a prior administration during the time that there is a political election going on.
Judge Tanya Chutkan, on the federal bench since 2014, has been randomly selected to try the case. Given the violence that rocked the nation's capital on January 6, 2021, the Trump defense team may seek to move the trial out of D.C.
There's other options. I mean, there's certainly West Virginia, which is close by. There's other areas.
6 co-conspirators are also mentioned in the indictment, but remain unnamed since no charges have been filed as of now.
Our investigation of other individuals continues.
I'm Laura Aguirre for KPBS News.
The Trump indictments will someday fill history books with details of this unprecedented moment. KPBS education reporter MG Perez was on campus at Southwestern College today for reactions there.
Construction of a new student union building continues at Southwestern College during this summer session. Campus is not as crowded with students right now, but those who are here have something to say about the former president and the indictments making history.
We're all, as adults, accountable for our actions. So I definitely do think if he's tried guilty, he should further off with his sentence.
Our students are probably the same as the American public, probably sick and tired of the body politic, the way things have been going, the extremism.
This extremism has been building for more than just a few election cycles. Phil Sines is a political science professor at Southwestern with 33 years of experience teaching freshman and sophomore students about the delicate and destructive demands of democracy now challenged by the former president.
I think what we need to do is just take a step back, be objective, listen to all the information, and allow our justice system to work.
No matter what happens with the Trump indictments, history is being made in real time, and there are some students who are paying close attention to what might happen next.
For us to be the leaders of tomorrow, we got to start being the leaders of today.
20-year-old Leonardo Vanegas is a former Southwestern student body president and current political science major. He will vote in his first presidential election next year.
We need more people involved, more people to vote, and more people to be active and actually know what's going on in our country.
Hope Kimachia will vote next year, too. Here's what she wants to know.
Well, the candidates' morals and why they choose to run and like what the things they support.
That's a list of requirements she will continue to build on until Election Day. MG Perez, KPBS News.
Right now, more than 50 million people are under heat alerts across 10 states. This as a raging wildfire threatens the landscape of a popular California tourist destination. Here's Patrick Cornell.
As the York wildfire rages on the California-Nevada border, the acres of earth scorched by the inferno is growing.
We're probably going to lose hundreds of thousands of Joshua trees. It will take a lifetime to get those mature, big Joshua tree forests back.
In Texas, the fast-moving flames of the Powder Keg pine fire forcing people from their homes.
Well, every summer when it gets dry like this, it's just a matter of time before the fires start, and it's
going to happen, and just as quick as they get on it, they can control it.
Yeah,
they do an outstanding job.
Yeah, they got really good, real good resources out this time.
On top of battling blazes, extreme heat buckling pavement in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and rewriting the record books in multiple places across Texas on Tuesday. The heat has killed at least 7 people in the Houston area since June. Blistering temperatures aren't just proving deadly to humans, they're also killing honeybees with a historic heat wave melting hives in Arizona.
So it collapses, and oftentimes the queen can be crushed. And if that happens, then there's no other bee there that can replace her. There's no other bees that can lay eggs, so the colony would just die.
Patrick Cornell, KPBS News.
Well, after getting scraped by some monsoon moisture over the past several days, we're in the process of drying out once again with lowering humidity. It's smooth sailing in the precipitation department into Thursday, but that actually means that our temperatures, they're going to be headed up in the coming days. We don't have any heat alerts in place as of now, but this could be changing before the week is done. How high are the temperatures going? We'll have the answer to that a little bit later in the broadcast.
San Diego drivers are dealing with gas prices that seem to be climbing along with summertime temperatures. KPBS environment reporter Eric Anderson says the average price is up over $5 a gallon.
Consumers who are filling up gas tanks are feeling the pinch. The average price of a gallon of gas in San Diego is $5.10. That's nearly 8 cents higher than the statewide average at $1.30 a gallon over the national average price.
In Southern California, we are seeing wholesale prices up for about the last week to levels that we haven't seen since November of last year.
Montgomery says prices are up 15 cents a gallon over the past 9 days, with the average jumping nearly 2 cents on Tuesday.
You don't have to pay $5 a gallon. Really, this is a time to aggressively shop around for that lowest price. There are plenty of stations that are close to 50 cents or even more lower than your average price.
The increases keep California gas as some of the most expensive fuel in the nation. And while rising international oil prices are driving some of the price increases, there are other factors at play. The state's summer fuel blend is more expensive to make, and every gallon of gas sold in California includes $1.26 in taxes and climate-related fees.
Those type of programs that are specific to California, like cap and trade, like the low carbon fuel standard, like these special blends. And so that's what we often see when you compare California to other states. We're gonna be a little bit higher or a lot higher because of these regulatory programs.
Ironically, California isn't feeling the heat like the rest of the country, where refinery outages linked to hot weather are pushing up prices at a faster clip. Eric Anderson, KPBS News.
The San Diego City Council has given the go-ahead for police to start using streetlight cameras to deter and investigate crime. KPBS SciTech reporter Thomas Fudge has more on the approval of this controversial measure.
The question of streetlight cameras has pitted privacy rights advocates against those who see the cameras as a vital crime-fighting tool. On Monday, the City Council voted 7-2 to allow San Diego police to move ahead with a plan to install 1,000 cameras in 500 places around the city. Councilwoman Vivian Moreno voted in favor. She gave the example of a woman who was murdered in 2019 while working at a Church's Chicken in Otay Mesa.
Without the footage from the streetlight cameras, it would have been impossible for SDPD to solve the crime. Now, with this technology, her murderer was found, arrested, and sentenced to 146 years to life in prison. And this is just one example, but there are many others that also demonstrate that this technology has a critical role to play in solving crimes.
Streetlight cameras were used in San Diego in the previous decade, but they were put off limits to police in 2020 due to concerns about privacy and equity. Police and those who support the cameras say there is no reasonable expectation of privacy on a public street. But others argue these cameras are able to peer into private places, and many people simply don't trust the police to use the cameras in the public interest.
They will only use this to continue to harass black and brown peoples. So I'm gonna try to give y'all experience. With this technology, the police no longer has to sit and wait for me to drive by them and stalk me like a killer on his prey. All they have to do now is rely on the tech to pinpoint me or others that look like me who are caught in the wrong communities.
City Councilman Sean Elo Rivera was one of 2 votes against the police department's plan. He said the council needs more time to examine it and to make sure that there are enough safeguards to protect law-abiding San Diegans.
I do not feel like I can go back to the folks in my community and say, don't worry, this data and this technology is in good hands. And it's not a slight at SDPD. There's too many unanswered questions here.
Most of the public comment heard on Monday was opposed to the use of streetlight cameras, but ultimately the cause of law enforcement and the testimony of crime victims won out. One woman told the council that her younger brother was murdered in downtown San Diego, and the killer was caught when a camera revealed his identity.
He had the perfect crime until he walked 7 blocks down G Street and took his mask off in front of the smart street camera to reveal his face. For a whole week, my family waited in fear and agony as my brother killer was still out in public walking along our city streets. Finally, we got the call that he was caught.
San Diego Mayor Todd Gloria tweeted his support of the cameras shortly after the council's vote. With the mayor's approval, San Diego police can begin working with vendors to set up the system and begin using surveillance video from streetlight cameras. Thomas Fudge, KPBS News.
Your car could be sharing your data, and state regulators want to put an end to it. Most cars nowadays have sensors and cameras which track what's going on in and outside of the car. Insurance companies often use it to determine rates and track safe driving. California regulators are looking into the use of personal information from cars, including how the data is collected. Then they will decide whether those practices follow state law.
I'm Jeff Bennett. Tonight on the NewsHour, we speak with Donald Trump's lawyer about the allegations and the latest indictment against the former president. Coming up at 7 after Evening Edition on KPBS.
Fitch Ratings is downgrading America's credit rating. For market watchers, the decision is unsettling and controversial. But what does it mean for you? Mike Valerio breaks it all down.
Historically, the U.S. has always been able to pay its bills.
The U.S. has been among the safest credit risks in the world.
But credit rating agency Fitch is worried the nation's political climate could make it a riskier bet, subsequently downgrading the U.S. debt rating from AAA to AA+ on Tuesday. The U.S. has only endured a downgrade once before, back in 2011, when a debt ceiling standoff similar to the one from earlier this summer brought the country to the brink of default. But Fitch believes political polarization and uncertainty is on the rise and eroding confidence.
What's going to happen with Social Security? What's going to happen with Medicare? What's going to happen with the national debt? There are also some purely economic angles, like the recession that everybody's been talking about for a couple of years that hasn't arrived yet.
But that recession may never come. Bank of America abandoning its recession forecast Wednesday as attitudes are brightening amid a strong jobs market and cooling inflation.
All of a sudden, a lot of people are saying, maybe the Fed can pull this off and bring inflation down without causing a recession.
While the move by Fitch could lead to a tightening of credit, Bankrate's Ted Rossman says it's unlikely consumers will feel the pinch.
There are some things people are worried about, but I don't think this downgrade, at least in the near term, affects everyday people in a significant way.
I'm Mike Valerio reporting.
$727 billion. That is the value of all taxable property in San Diego County this year, according to the assessor, and that is up a record-setting 7% or $48 billion from last year. The assessment also showed a savings of more than $275 million, which is another record. This is the 11th consecutive year of record-setting revenue. San Diego sailors are training to play an important role next year in NASA's first manned moon mission in more than 50 years. KPBS military reporter Andrew Dyer has the story.
When the crew of NASA's Orion spacecraft splash down in the Pacific Ocean next year after circling the moon, it will be San Diego Navy crews recovering the spacecraft and the astronauts inside. It will be the second flight of NASA's new Artemis program and the first to carry astronauts. Although it won't land there just yet, it will also be the first time humans have been to the moon since the final Apollo mission in 1972.
So the Artemis mission is all about going back to the moon and staying on the moon.
NASA's Lily Villarreal is the landing and recovery director for the Artemis II mission. It's her job to help coordinate with both the Navy and the Air Force in recovering Orion and its crew. Over the last week, NASA officials tested the recovery process from the San Diego-based amphibious transport dock John P. Murtha. Coronado-based Navy divers with expertise in decompression practiced recovering Orion's crew, with sailors subbing in for the astronauts, who have yet to train for recovery.
NASA couldn't do this without the partnership of the DoD. We just definitely don't have the assets, the capability, and the global reach that the Navy and the DoD helps us with.
Senior Chief Ryan Kreider is the Command Master Diver for EOD Expeditionary Support Unit 1 in Coronado. His sailors are training alongside air crews from a North Island helicopter squadron for next year's recovery mission.
So we handle everything on the open water.
EOD sailors will make contact with the capsule after splashdown, assess the astronauts, and help guide them to a helicopter to transport back to a ship. The capsule itself will be recovered by one of the several amphibious transport docks based in San Diego.
We know how to handle a lot of unpredictable situations, and we know how to handle them with calm and ease.
Artemis II will circle the moon in 2024. Then, with Artemis III in 2025, NASA plans to land astronauts on the moon for the first time in more than half a century. Andrew Dyer, KPBS News.
The theme for the rest of this week and the upcoming weekend, less humidity, but that means more heat. So we have a bit of a trade-off on the way. Nevertheless, a dry pattern will remain in place into the weekend. No threat for any type of showers or thunderstorms, not even in the high ground of the mountainous locations. As mentioned, the humidity levels are dropping and the heat is coming back. It'll still be cooler at the coast, so you can get some relief, but not as much relief as you could have gotten over the past couple of days. Some of that warmth will be creeping westward as we go through the end of the week. Overnight in the metro, no real fanfare. Partly cloudy, upper 60s, and with lower humidity levels, it will actually be feeling pretty comfortable. During the day on Thursday, sunshine to go around. Still in the 70s as you get close to the coast, but you don't have to get far inland that you see 80s, and then it's 90s, if not triple digits once again out in Borrego Springs, and those temperatures all around will be gradually coming up over the coming days. We're smooth sailing in the precipitation department. Any of the monsoon storms and moisture will continue to head comfortably farther to the north and to the east of our area. We're left with just clear skies and relative comfort for now, for about one more day before that heat starts to build. For your Thursday, still bright sunshine. Notice we're still considering it pleasant as you get far enough west, but then here comes the heat by the time we get to Friday and eventually, more notably so, into the weekend. So at the coast, still comfortable the next couple of days, upper 70s and then even 80s getting there, especially closing in on the mid-80s by the end of the weekend. You get inland, 80s give way to 90s over the weekend. So once again, here comes the heat. Overnight lows also climbing into the 60s. In the mountains, this is your best bet for relief. No thunderstorms. Temperatures will be around 70 degrees. And as always this time of the year, big time heat in the desert, closing in on 110 by the time we get to Sunday. For KPBS News, I'm meteorologist Ben Reppert.
Did you know there are current or former police with special jobs at baseball games? They're not there as security, but checking balls, bats, and other items from the games. KPBS reporter Matt Hoffman followed along with 2 official MLB authenticators.
That's the sound of Alika Williams stepping up for his first ever Major League at-bat. The 24-year-old Pittsburgh Pirates infielder is making his Major League debut at Petco Park. It's a moment that the San Diego native will never forget.
It was awesome to be able to do it, in the hometown and have so many family and friends come out and support, and it was amazing.
Debuts don't happen every day in baseball, so when they do, it's a moment Major League Baseball wants to officially mark. Hours before Williams' big moment, MLB authenticator J.C. Smith was preparing.
If he gets in the game, he's going to want a lot of items authenticated.
Smith is part of a team of 6 at Petco Park who authenticate items from each game. That means they watch every pitch, every swing, every hit, and every out very carefully. If anything significant happens, from a major milestone to a no-hitter to a first ever at-bat, they'll track the ball and any other equipment involved.
We watch baseball differently than the average fan because we're following the ball, and we keep track of everyone who touches the ball, where the ball goes, and how it comes out of play.
MLB authenticators might verify up to 40 game balls a night, but it's not just balls they're watching. Anything from broken bats to base pads and jerseys could come their way. After something like a ball comes off the field, it's passed to them, and they label it with a hologram sticker that identifies the item as legit. They also detail how it was used during the game.
It's a witness-based program that we do. So we have to see something to be able to authenticate it.
Steve Villalobos has been an MLB authenticator since 2006. His day starts with helping oversee the certification of all the game balls that will be used in today's game.
Taking 6. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Then he heads back through the tunnel and out onto the field to authenticate the Padres team lineup card.
My hologram is now on it, so it's an official lineup card ready for game use.
Some of the items authenticated will end up going back to players or even the team.
This bottom one is going to be 50 and this is going to be 60.
Some of it will also be sold to fans. The Padres have a game used store at Petco Park where people can buy things like balls, jerseys, or even hats. MLB authenticators also specialize in verifying that autographs are real. If it has the shiny silver hologram sticker, it's legit.
With everything, with any sort of autograph at this point, the authentication is everything. I would never buy a signature online without that sort of authentication, ever.
Sean Daly bought a replica lineup card for his son Max. It has an autograph from one of their favorite players, C.J. Abrams. Daly has some peace of mind knowing that the signature is real, and he can go online and read all about the item's backstory.
I didn't realize you can just scan the QR code here. It takes you to a site, and it tells you the context. It was this inning, it was this bat, this is what happened at the moment. So it's a great way to log that moment in history.
MLB's authentication program covers every team in the league, but it actually got started here in San Diego. In the late 90s, early 2000s, Padres legend Tony Gwynn noticed his signature was being forged. He helped to launch an investigation that revealed a massive forgery scandal that was uncovered by the FBI.
That was kind of the touchstone moment where everybody realized there's a problem here.
Michael Posner leads MLB's authentication program. He says it was necessary because people were faking autographs and claiming that items came from games when they simply didn't.
If there's no way to put a stamp on it and say, this is it, this is how we witnessed it, here's the process, people have the opportunity to forge it because there's a vacuum in the space. And generally when there's a vacuum in the space, bad actors come in, and we have been very, very proactive about trying to keep those people out of the business. So the idea now is not just autographs, is to be able to do this with game-use products because they're sought after.
MLB only hires current or former law enforcement to be authenticators. They say they do that because of their training on how to handle evidence. Smith spent 26 years with the San Diego Police Department and then worked for the District Attorney's Office. Villalobos was with SDPD for 32 years. He says there is some crossover.
We have to see it. It has to get to us. We have to document it. So it'd be the same thing as at an evidentiary scene. People call us, hey, I have this jersey that was signed by somebody. Can you authenticate it? No, I didn't watch the person sign it.
After the game, San Diego native Alika Williams had his debut jersey authenticated, and Smith was there to mark the moment.
I had to watch the jersey actually come off Williams when he came off the field, because they can't just give us any jersey and say, hey, this was the one he was wearing. I have to see it. It's almost like in court for law enforcement that we have to testify that we saw the evidence and where it came from.
Both Smith and Villalobos have spent nearly 20 years authenticating baseball memorabilia. They estimate they've checked around 25,000 items. Some of them are more unique than others, like verifying champagne bottles used during playoff celebrations. But it's the milestone moments that really stand out to them, like Barry Bonds tying the home run record.
That might be it. Going on back at the wall is Hairston. It is gone.
Or Trevor Hoffman getting his 500th save.
Here in the ninth, the 1-2 pitch. Outside corner, quickly called. 500 save.
I think what keeps me going, I don't want to miss anything. You know, if cool stuff happens at the ballpark, and I mean, if you're a fan, you want to be there to see it. But I mean, we sit right there. You saw where we sit. It's unbelievable to be a part of it. You're actually a part of history when you authenticate items that were used in a special game.
The small silver hologram stickers placed on authenticated items have a unique serial number, and they're made to be tamper-proof. Since 2001, MLB says more than 6 million items have been authenticated. Matt Hoffman, KPBS News.
And you can find tonight's stories on our website, kpbs.org. Thanks so much for joining us. I'm Maya Trabulsi. Good night.
Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Bill Howe Family of Companies, providing San Diego with plumbing, heating and air, restoration, flood and remodeling services for over 40 years. Call 1-800-BILL-HOWE or visit billhowe.com. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marco Shiley, and by the following: and by viewers like you. Thank you.